Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Shintaro Higashi Show with Peter Yu. Today, we have a special episode. We're going to talk about who Peter Yu is. Who are you, Peter? What's going on?
Yeah, I guess we're all gonna find out today.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. That's right. I'm going to interview you. It's
yeah,
going to be a
that's right.
it's going to be a great one.
Hope you have some good questions, tough
Yeah.
ones. Yeah,
So to begin off, right, I know a lot of people already sort of know you from my YouTube channel, and
right.
you're a great uke, and you're a great friend, and all these different things. I just kind of want to give the viewers and the audience sort of my take on who Peter Yu is. Peter Yu is a friend of mine. He was also a student of mine at the dojo. He was one of our top black belts, and he was sort of the enforcer of KBI. Right? Did you like that title at the dojo?
I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it, but it's like I think it was an honor. It was an honor to be the enforcer, but I don't know if in actuality how much of an enforcer I was. But what
Yeah.
I did was I would go first and then kind of tire people out so
No,
that you
no,
can
you
you
gotta
can
give
come in
yourself a
and
little bit more credit than that. So, if you don't know what an enforcer is, every dojo sort of has one, right? A guy comes in, they want to work out, they have tons of training somewhere else, and they're sort of like, "Hey, let's work out." And look, it's kind of a bad look when a guest comes in and beats everyone at the school,
right.
right? So, if they come in, and usually these are our first line of defense, which is like our brown belts, and then our
Yeah.
guest beats up on the brown belts, right? And then Peter sort of comes in, and then right
Okay. Yeah.
takes
Okay. I
on the
guess.
challenger.
Yeah. I'm not that big, so a lot of people, I look a little unassuming, I guess. So
Yeah,
yeah, I can kind of surprise them
you're kind
sometimes.
of the
Yeah.
best type of enforcer because you're 73 kilos, right? You
Yeah.
fought at nationals when you took seventh at nationals, so you were 66 kilos, so you were
Yeah.
150 pounds essentially,
Yeah.
right? And then no one really expects that much out of a 150-pound person to be like, right? Normally enforcers are heavy. They're
Yeah.
big guys,
Right.
they're bigger guys. Guy comes in, throws everyone around. It's like, all right, get the big dude from about the back over here, right? And then
Yeah.
if your sensei's young, if the enforcer goes down, the sensei has to step in.
Right.
But if the sensei's over like 55, 60, then it's like, okay, they get a
Yeah.
pass,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you need to develop your enforcers at the dojo. So Peter was an enforcer of ours, right? Always good, had technique, he was tricky. And we had a couple others sort of in
Right.
the ranks. But Peter was a very, very special person at the dojo because, yeah, it was just like a very special time in our lives that we sort of met and you were at the dojo, right?
Right. The early 20s, mid 20s, whatever, we're hanging out in New York City, just working out, and we talked about this, right? Like Friday night practices and
Yeah.
whatnot. And it wasn't just that we like hung out outside of the dojo a lot. I would
Yeah.
always invite you to my parties. You would
Yeah.
invite
Good
me to
times.
your parties. Yeah. I used to like throwing parties. I
Yeah.
think those days are behind me now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was he Shintaro was always at my birthday parties, Halloween parties, whatever,
Yeah.
all those things.
And it's a special time in my life too. What people don't realize, it's like, oh, I go to the school, the sensei's there, and he is this, that, this, or the dojo is this, that, whatever it is. But a
Yeah.
lot of the times it's sort of when they are in the cycle of the dojo, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the teacher is in his 20s and started taking on the dojo and teaching the schools and they're capable of going out and hanging out with some of the students, I know a lot of people have different feelings about that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I was always pretty good with the boundaries between the
Right.
students and the teacher. But there's some people sort of that break through those boundaries, and you were
Mm-hmm.
definitely one of those people. And I
Mm-hmm.
was at the time in my life where I had the time to be able to, right? Because I didn't
Right.
have a kid, right? I was just doing judo and teaching judo. So you were sort of like the perfect fit. You're a smart guy, right? And then you
How
could,
about that?
yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about your academic background and all that stuff and what makes you so interesting,
Yeah.
right? And essentially, you sort of became this person that sort of became irreplaceable because now I'm in a different phase of my life, running a different phase of the dojo, right?
Mm.
Deep in your 30s, you get married, have kids, right? I'm not married, but if you have kids, I have a
Mm.
kid,
Yeah.
right? That takes up a little bit more of your time and you're not afforded the same type of
Right.
ability to interact and let people sort of come through those
Right.
boundaries, right?
Yeah,
And
I
then
think
maybe,
yeah,
yeah,
you're completely right. Like I think it's like serendipity, I guess. Like we're in the same city, doing the same thing together around this, like when we are at the same stage of life.
yeah,
Just a lot of time to hang out and whatnot. And also, I think because of that, now we're kind of moving on to the new stage of life together in a way.
Yeah.
You know, I'm married now. You have a kid. I'm settling down. Although I moved away from New York City, but we still keep in touch, and
Yeah.
we can still talk about things.
You'll be back. You'll be
Yeah,
back.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, it's great, man. It's because the timeline stuff is real. You know, my
Yeah.
father, who's known to be very stoic, he had a Peter too. We talked about this. Like,
Oh yeah.
he had a friend named Peter, and I remember somebody, in the dojo family. My father's a lot older, passed away,
Yeah.
and he saw his old Peter from his like days of his 30s, and he was so happy.
Right.
He like ran up to was like, "Oh my God, Peter!" And they were like holding hands, jumping up and down, like kind of like my 3-year-old daughter
Right.
does, when she sees her friends at the park. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So it's like, oh man, like my dad had the time to hang out, and he
Right.
spent a lot of time with this friend, right, doing judo, and that's what we were, right? I had more
That's
time,
right.
you had more time, right? You were working as a programmer in the city, and you'd come to the dojo 3 or 4 times a week, right?
Sometimes 5
Even-
times. So like we would see each other
Yeah.
almost every day.
Every day we would train, we would work out, and then we would talk about judo, and we would talk about life afterwards, and then little by little, your wife started chipping away at my time. Right?
Yeah, that's right. We
Yeah.
also live right next to each other in the city, out in the Upper West Side, like literally a block
That's right.
away.
That's right. Because you were on the Lower East Side for a while, like Midtown East, and then
Yeah,
you
Midtown
were like,
East,
you know
yeah.
what? I'm gonna go closer to the dojo.
Yeah.
And now it's like commute after the dojo. It's like
Right.
dinner, walk home. Right. So
That's
it's like, It
right.
was like sort of the perfect storm of like being in the same place, like-minded individuals.
Right. And
Right.
we would hit up the local like dive bars
Yeah.
time to time, and yeah, it was a great
Yeah.
good times, man.
Yeah. And
Miss
it's like I
those
would like
times.
to have something like that now too, but it's like my position in my life kind of makes that a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's like I have to go home to my kid. If I go home now, then it's like I could, put her to bed and all this stuff, and now you're gone. And little by little, right? The dojo is like this living, breathing thing, and it
Right.
changes and it evolves, right? Maybe when I'm 45 years old, I'm a little bit jaded. Maybe when I'm 55, I'm like, oh, I got to teach Osoto again. Holy moly.
And you
and
just-
by the time I'm 60, I'm just like sitting on the sidelines, just hanging out, right?
Yeah. And you just maybe you'll get yourself a Lamborghini.
Yeah, right. Can you imagine? I'm in the wrong business for that. But yeah, Peter, you walked into the dojo late, right after college.
Right,
You moved
20
to New York.
2013 summer.
2013, man. So I've known you almost a decade.
Yeah, almost a decade. It's heading up there. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this episode's going to be all about you. And let's first off start off with your judo journey.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, so my family's not, a grappling family. I was the first one to grapple, and it started with wrestling in high school. So I just had a group of friends who were wrestlers, and they, my high school was actually not good at wrestling, and then actually the wrestling team was kind of
This is in Michigan.
disbanded. Yeah, it's back in Michigan. It kind of disbanded for a year or two, but then my friends tried to bring it back. So he invited me to join. So I just went. I didn't really know what wrestling was, except
How many
for that.
kids on the team?
It was like we barely had enough to fill the dual meets. Really, no depth or anything
wow.
because I got a
Okay.
new program. But I really liked it, and so I started in my junior year. So it
Oh,
was-
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
very late because my main sport was soccer in high school, and I still
right.
play soccer.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
watching soccer, playing soccer. But anyway, so then I really liked it. I all I could bring to the table was just hard work, just trying to
Yeah.
catch up. I only knew how to double leg, single leg, and
Yeah.
fireman's
And you were
carry.
Korean born, right?
Yeah,
You were
Korean-born,
and
yeah.
then you came over when you were
I was
a young
15. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
15, and I moved.
well. So you came over when you were 15 years old, and then
and then picked up wrestling, and then
right away.
yeah,
Wow.
pretty much. And then
Did you like that? Were you a
I
good
did.
wrestler?
I did. I really liked it. And then my mom was actually kind of apprehensive about it because she thought I would get hurt. But then she liked it because I started taking care of my body better. Like
Yeah.
eating right and trying to make weight. And because she
Were you the
always,
quintessential skinny Asian kid in high school?
I was not skinny. I was about 140 pounds in the high school.
Yeah.
5'9", so I wasn't like
Yeah,
skinny,
that's skinny.
skinny. Is that skinny?
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, I never thought myself as skinny. But anyway, so, and then I really got into it. A senior year, the coaches made me captain just because
Yeah.
I was working hard and whatnot. Then at the end of my, after the wrestling season was over, I wanted to continue to do this, but I knew that I wasn't good enough to wrestle in college.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to cut weight or anything. So I was looking for some other grappling sports to do.
Yeah.
And I watched all those, this was when the Gracies were like going hard on the marketing online. So I watched those old videos and I was like, wow, BJJ is something I want to do. So I went to a local BJJ gym, try to learn. But honestly, I didn't really like it because even in wrestling, I was a takedown guy.
Yeah.
So, and in BJJ, you don't really, I guess it's changed a little bit, but even then, yeah, especially then it wasn't like that. So then I did more research and then I stumbled upon judo, and there wasn't a lot of judo content in the English speaking world, especially in America online back then. So I actually went to see a lot of videos in Korean, because in Korea judo is been very
judo's popular. Like they have regular TV shows where they have judo champ versus celebrities, right? I've seen some of those. Those are like amazing. Could you imagine like Lady Gaga goes out there in a gi?
I know, right?
With Daria Villa did, and she gets bombed or something like this.
Yeah, things like that happen, and judo is quite popular there. So so after I graduated from college, in high school, before I started college, I had the opportunity to spend 3 months in Korea just to hang out with my dad, because my dad was working in Korea by then.
Yeah.
And I asked my dad to put me to a judo gym, and I basically during the day I would just go see stuff, hang out with my friends, and then at 5 o'clock, like 6 o'clock rolls in, I'll go to the local judo gym.
So you're at this point, how old are you?
I was like 18.
18, that's when you started judo.
Yeah. Nice. Right after high school. And then I'll spend like 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for 3 months.
Oh, wow. That's pretty intensive amount of time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like, I wasn't on a team or anything. It's a local dojo, but that dojo was known to send kids to Yongin University. The owner was a Yongin grad.
For those of you who don't know, Yongin's one of the best judo universities in the world. Yeah. I've heard people even call it Judo University in Korea.
Yeah, they have, you can major in judo, you can even get a PhD in judo. Yeah. It's a lot of Olympians actually do that.
PhD in judo.
Yeah, you can write a dissertation on the mechanics of Uchimata, how to teach it well, and things like that. Yeah.
Abstract. I did judo today, I hurt my knee.
Yeah, and how to prevent it.
Yeah, data. I know 8 guys that hurt their knee.
That's right. Yeah. So I trained with a lot of high school kids who are trying to make it to the university, and then some of the alums, who are college kids at Yongin, will come down and train with us. So it was I have a lot of good memories from there. I actually still keep in touch with some of the people I met there, including the owner, who is now the coach of the Paralympic team of Korea. Very nice gentleman. And then, so in Korea, Shodan is really, it's not like a prestigious thing. It's if you know how
first degree black belt.
Yeah, if you know how to do judo, they're like, okay, you're good, and then they give you. So because I had some wrestling under my belt and I picked things up quickly, the owner was like, I'll get you a Shodan at the end of summer. So that's why I came, and then I came back to the States, and I went to college.
So you're the equivalent of that guy, the Brazilian guy that goes to Brazil on a jiu-jitsu retreat and comes back with a belt.
That's right. I kind of did that. So funny thing, for a long time I didn't tell people this, because I did that. Some people would think exactly that. So
the whole world knows it.
I know.
Now it's
but
out there. But
now
now you're good enough to you could even support it.
yeah.
It's so funny because when you came in with the Korean on your gi and all this stuff with the black belt, everyone was like, "Oh my god, who is that guy?"
There was a gift from my
Yeah.
that gentleman that taught me, the first sensei.
Nice.
And but yeah, they so I came to the States and then went to college, and I went to a local dojo,
Yeah.
at the YWCA.
Is this when you went to Princeton? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that's right. I did. I have my
Surprised you haven't
undergirls in
brought that up
Princeton.
yet.
I knew you usually do that for me, so
Yeah. So you're
So,
at the
yeah.
Princeton University Judo Club as well, right?
Yeah, Princeton, not University Club, because so at Princeton it was an interesting thing. So there was a student club for BJJ,
Yeah.
and there was a local club at the Y for judo. So I did both. So I
Oh,
would
you did both. Nice.
Yeah, so I was like, my buddy Mike and I would run the student club. He was the president and I was the VP. So I would just like teach class, like run some practice on Fridays, and then like I think the classes at the Y was twice a week, and I'll go to those.
Nice.
So after class, yeah, and it was it was a little lonely because really it was just a handful of people who even knew what judo and BJJ were.
Yeah.
We had some wrestling kids coming in to train with us time
I
to
mean,
time.
like Princeton has a pretty good wrestling program, right?
Yeah,
So,
so we had actually one of my friends on the wrestling team, Andrew. He would come and train with us a lot. He was very talented. He's this guy from Hawaii. He actually did judo in Hawaii because
there's
in
tons
Hawaii,
of judo in Hawaii.
apparently it's a high school sport.
Yeah.
So,
Crazy amount of judo over there.
yeah, so that's how I went. That's how I trained in college, and I did compete here and there, local tournaments.
Yeah.
I went to Liberty Bell one, but it's tough. There's no team, so you have to do everything yourself. No one on my sideline to coach.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing how like you stuck it out through that time period.
Yeah,
It's hard to do a sport like that by yourself and go to competitions by yourself and be driven and motivated to keep at it. Like, what kept you going?
That's a good question. I actually was thinking about that the other night, and I mean it's a lot of reasons, but like the superficial reason, I guess, it's that I just didn't want to quit. I really I kind of like that I have this skill to defend myself and also get in shape and whatnot. Well, another thing was, now I look back and then I guess I know a little bit more about life and whatnot. But the biggest thing I got out of judo was that it's been a very humbling experience in a way, and because in high school and even through college, I thought I was this hot shot. I was pretty athletic, and I got into good college and whatnot. And my mom actually, who knows me, well, one of the people who knows me the best, right? Like she would warn me, like, "Hey, don't get too cocky. You have the tendency to do that, yada yada yada." But then judo kind of put me to place in a way. Like you have all these older people who've been doing judo who
it's a humbling experience.
Yeah, they don't look athletic and whatever, but I've experienced so many times when I would go randori with them and I can't even do anything,
Yeah. I like how that was the one humbling experience. Like, yeah, I'm smart, I'm athletic, I got into Princeton, just better than everyone. I did judo and I got thrown. Like, oh man, I'm humble now.
No, it had a lot. Yeah, I guess it might sound funny, but it had a lot of like a huge impact on me, and I wanted to that made me want to keep going because in a way I wanted to be like those wise old men in a way.
Yeah.
It's just, and women, but yeah, and then also I really liked the community. It was very close knit,
Yeah, for sure. All the things that would keep people in sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what'd you
And
study in college? I mean, I know all these answers because I know you
right.
pretty well, but for our viewers and listeners, right?
So
This is good because if I could ask you questions that I forgot about you and then I could cloak it and like, oh, I already know it, but
yeah,
like,
that's right. Well,
yeah,
so I studied computer science. I've always
nice.
wanted to become a programmer from early age. Yeah. So
So what made you want to do that at an early age? Like, that never appealed to me. Like,
I
what about that appealed to you? Was it your
so
parents' influence or
so a little bit, I guess so my dad was an engineer and by
what kind of
trade.
engineer?
He was a material science engineer, scientist. Yeah.
Interesting. I knew that.
I might have mentioned it to you here and there,
Yeah.
but he eventually moved on to management quickly, and
Mm.
he's more talented in that than in
Yeah.
being an engineer.
He's a big
Anywho,
timer, isn't he?
yeah, well, he's retired now, but he climbed up the ladder and then he get as high as it could be,
It's
I
pretty
guess.
amazing. He
Yeah.
reminds me kind of like Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk is like an engineer by trade, but
Uh,
he's a CEO, right?
right.
And it surprised me because when I went to your wedding,
Uh,
the socially distant wedding, right?
that's right.
Your father gave a speech, and boy, did he blow it away. He was amazing. He was
Yeah,
such a charismatic character,
right.
right?
He loves doing that. He thrives in that kind of environment, and
Yeah,
it's good to see. Yeah, and
yeah,
so he influenced me a lot. He in that way, like my interest in science and
yeah.
math, and then my when I was in elementary school, my mom bought me this uh, comic book about Bill Gates. How yeah.
That's the nerdiest thing I've ever
I
heard in my
know.
life.
I used to love reading about science and these
Yeah,
people. I have always been interested in it, but she bought me that for a random reason. I hadn't even really heard of Bill Gates really, but
in elementary school, mind you.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I knew how to use Windows. I played computer games,
yeah.
but I didn't know who Bill Gates was.
It's
And
amazing, man.
anyway, so that book, I was that was one of my favorite books growing
Yeah.
up. Like that character, his life kind of mesmerized me,
Yeah, when he
and
would like walk all the way to the other side of town just to code at a computer because it was available, that kind of stuff.
yeah, like yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
He would sneak into his school with his friends to code all night.
yeah,
Teach themselves how to code, and later became rich, and then now he's a big philanthropist and all that. It's
yeah,
just fascinated me. So I was like, what? I want to become like that. I want to become
yeah,
like Bill Gates. And
yeah,
yeah, that's how it started. And middle school, I mean, there wasn't a lot of right nowadays. It's really easy to teach yourself how to code if you're
yeah,
motivated enough because there's so much free content out there. But
yeah,
I mean, I'm not even that old, but I guess the field is so fast moving. But back when I was in middle school,
yeah,
like I couldn't find anything to go off of, and
yeah,
especially in Korean, I didn't speak English back then,
yeah,
so it was hard to teach myself how to do that. But then in middle school, I randomly there was like a local bookstore that I used to go a lot, and then I randomly saw this book on C++ in
yeah.
Korean, and
Mm.
I was like, "Oh my god, mom, can you please get that to me? Get that for me?" I know it was
Wow,
weird.
dude.
Like I was
Yeah,
like,
I cannot believe how nerdy this conversation is
I
now.
was a nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I was
Holy
like, "Oh my
moly.
god." When my mom actually didn't want me to get it for me at first because
Why?
she thought I don't know, maybe I should talk to her for a bit, but I think she thought it was something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, but eventually,
What could she think it was? I mean, I guess C++,
maybe
like who knows what that is,
yeah, and
back in
also
the
I
day,
think
right?
she was kind of worried that I was getting too into computers. Like
Yeah.
I was spending too much time on it at some point.
It's a
And
good balance that you were doing grappling, to round you out.
yeah, I honestly that's one of the things that I'm most thankful for moving to America, that I could become a more balanced person. Yeah, because in Korea I wouldn't have had a chance to
Yeah.
even try wrestling, or it's
Sure.
like in Japan, it's well, I
Yeah.
think Japan's actually better because in middle school and high school everyone kind of does bukatsu, right? Like this club activities.
Yeah, but when you're stuck in that club, then you're done. That's what you do.
Oh
Especially if
really?
you get pretty decent at it. Now you're a lifer.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, especially if you
When
go to school that's good at that particular sport, like you're in it.
I see.
Judo
Yeah.
guys are going to be judo guys forever.
In Korea, it's like that too. I mean, it's kind of
Yeah,
scary, right? Like it's
it is
something
pretty scary.
you do in middle school, and then if you're good, you're like, okay,
You're done. That's it.
yeah,
You can
that's
be
your life
judoka.
profession.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At least in America, it's like I have a fall sport and a spring sport and a winter sport, and I
right.
play basketball here and track there, and I don't have to do any of it if I don't want to, and I could go to any college
Exactly.
that I want, and I could kind of mess around and drink and hang out.
I
Yeah,
think there's some virtue in that. Like it really helps with the exploration and whatnot. But
yeah,
anyway, so I try to teach myself C++. It's a hard language
yeah,
it's a hard language to learn. So I didn't do anything fancy, just
yeah.
putting stuff on
What were
screen and
some of your
whatnot.
favorite things you've built on C++?
Back then, I didn't really build much. I was happy to just have my computer print some text on the screen, and that's
Mm,
about it. Really, I learned the basics, you know, pointers and whatnot.
yeah,
It eventually it helped me because now it just I moved to America, and my high school actually had programming classes.
nice. And you took that?
Yeah, and I devoured it. I had so much fun there. And then the teacher was great,
Yeah.
Mr. Fraser.
Ooh, yeah.
Frazier.
Give him a shout
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, he's retired now. He was an old
Yeah,
gentleman back then too. But yeah, I mean, he was a very popular teacher. He was so nice and
yeah,
calm and, good with kids, and he taught me the basics, right? Like that's like the first first programming class I took. And I
yeah.
like devoured it. I even took I finished two classes in one semester because I
Nice.
liked it so
Yeah.
much.
So what is it about program that would like really was a draw for you? Like just the idea of like being able to tell a computer to do something
Yeah, I
or
think I think that was the biggest appeal for me.
yeah.
The fact that there's something that I could uh, like this mystery machine, right? Like if you
Yeah.
look at it, it's like a magic machine, but you can actually control it, like
Mm,
every single behavior. I mean, it's
yeah.
a machine. If you drill down to it, it's all zeros and ones.
Yeah.
And another thing, now after I got better at it, the biggest appeal is that this is like it's a very creative exercise.
Mm,
You know, it's kind of like woodworking, except there's no physical constraints. You can build anything you can think of.
interesting.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I
so
love the feeling when I like click on the email icon and my email comes up telling my machine what to do.
and then if it's not even like you can't even script like for example when you learn Excel and whatnot in school and
Yeah.
if that's programming, that's
Yeah.
how you use the tools available to make the computer do what you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, and then when everything clicks, it feels good, right? And then if you go a little further and then study it more and practice more, you can have this liberating feeling, a very like creative uh, feeling where you feel like you
Yeah.
can create anything, really.
So what is your favorite thing that you've created?
Through my teenage years,
No, just your whole life.
oh, in programming, wow. I had a lot of fun. This kind of goes into now my interest switching from not just programming to AI. I built a chess engine based on the Alpha Zero like algorithm.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, I remember you.
yeah, you played it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you win? I forget.
I can't remember. I want to say I did, but I don't
I
remember.
think you did because back then it wasn't that good. That was a lot of fun because I read all these like cutting edge research
Yeah.
papers, and then I referenced that I had to tweak it a little bit because I don't have enough
Yeah.
computing resources as deep minded.
Yeah.
But it's really cool to see that. Oh wow, I barely know how to play chess, but I created
Yeah.
something that plays better than me. Chess better
That's
than
really
me.
interesting, man. Like I don't know much about programming. The only thing I know is pretty much what you tell me, right? And I just based everything off of that. But it kind of blew my mind when you were like, yeah, my engine ran through 10,000 simulations already,
Yeah.
right? In such a short amount of like, wait a minute. Your chess engine played 10,000 games already, right? And then it was learning every single time. I'm like, wow,
Right.
that's really kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, it's just it blew my mind too,
Yeah.
and I could only, I mean, I could do this because as a field it had advanced enough for people like me who were
Yeah.
beginners at that time to implement something like that.
So when you were doing that, did you create something new? Like did your engine do something different that no one else's did?
No,
Or
no, it wasn't anything novel. It was so what DeepMind did was that it it created a system that could teach itself how to play chess without ever having human input. Um,
mm,
but for me, I mean, I don't, and the algorithm they developed requires a lot of computing power,
yeah.
but I don't have that, so I had to kind of shortcut it and then just use human play data, you know.
Mm,
So yeah, so which requires a lot less because it's more directed approach. It's a more
yeah.
directed approach. So that's what I did. I mean, that's nothing really. Yeah, it's nothing uh, novel about it, really.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting. I've heard something about like chess. There's certain, there's lots of different combinations and all this stuff, but like Go
right.
is one that's a little bit more complicated.
Go. Yeah, you do need more computational power.
Yeah.
Because there's more combinations. So I originally wanted to build a Go engine,
Yeah.
but I just couldn't because it's not enough. Yeah, there's not enough data or computing power available
So when
for
you're
me.
thinking about like, all right, I want to program this next or that next, I'm sure some people are one camp and some people other. Do you try to like find something that's already been done to make it better, or do you want to just come up with something completely different and new?
Um, so I'm actually learning that process as a PhD student.
Ooh, you're getting a PhD.
Yeah, yeah, that we can talk about that later too. But
Yeah.
it's it. I would say usually what you want to do is go off what other people have done and then
Yeah,
try to
for
make it
sure.
better.
Like every other scientific paper, right? It's like, oh, I
Yeah,
read
I
this
mean,
thing, and you reference that, and then you design your
right.
own thing. Yeah,
It's really, I mean, judo too. You're not gonna, it's a whole process, right? You start simple and then you kind of grow it up to the
yeah,
point where then you all, your work, you have your own novel strategies in
yeah,
judo, but they are based on Kano's work or your dad's work,
yeah,
or
yeah. Right versus right has already been done. Right versus
right,
left mostly been done. Now there's Georgian judo, Mongolian judo, and you look for
right,
patterns and you try to integrate it and make it kind of your own. And you're not reinventing Taio; it's
right.
already there. You're
But
not reinventing back and forth attacking or reaction things.
yeah, but that's exactly how science is done.
Mm,
You have to read. So first, you want to read a lot, like you do with judo. Watching all these
mm.
different videos and
I mean, I
theories.
actually don't really watch that much.
Oh, really?
Or yeah, I don't really. I'm not like some people are like, hey, did you see the thing? I'm like, not really, no.
How do you keep up? Well, you exchange ideas with other people too, right?
I
Like
do,
take on
yeah.
this.
I
Yeah.
like watching like I have like a couple of Instagram,
Hmm.
channels that I follow. It's very scientific, right? And then if I see like a highlight reel and if I see something I haven't seen, then I'll go watch it. And then every now and then, like a major tournament, I'll watch some matches and see if I see anything new. And if I see
it
something completely out of the blue and new, then I'll like be like, okay, I
right.
got to learn this and study it, and then I'll try it on my own.
Oh, I mean, that's exactly what happens in science.
Yeah,
Like you don't read all the papers. You read. You go to. You kind of keep up with journals and
yeah.
conferences and talks, and
Do
then
you
you
do a
just.
lot of that stuff?
I do now because it's
Yeah,
part of the job now, and
yeah,
you got to learn how to. Oh, okay, just read the abstract quickly, and if it's interesting, you go and read the intro and the conclusion
yeah.
a little more to see if it's relevant, and then if it's relevant, you read the whole paper in more detail and taking notes, kind of like what you're doing.
Have you ever read Satoshi's article about
So
Bitcoin? His original
Oh no,
paper?
no, the white paper.
Yeah.
Did I like? I remember I did read the white paper and yellow paper for Ethereum because you told me so much about it.
Yeah, I
I
was
did
into
read
that for a
them.
hot second. Yeah.
Yeah. Not Bitcoin, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know I did read Ethereum and I thought it was quite interesting. I
Yeah.
don't know if
It's
it's
amazing that you could read that and understand it, like with the ethereal virtual machine and ether and gas and all this stuff. I'm like reading it. I'm like, man, I have no clue.
I mean I didn't really get the nitty gritties well either. I mean you just yeah, I mean you but I guess in some aspects I could kind of imagine like
Yeah.
I could see how they will build these things because
Do
I
you
just
think like a
know.
place like AI can have in like sport, like judo or something? Like if you had someone manually code like this is the code for Uchimata thrown, this is the
Mhm.
code for weight, and then you do like a regression analysis, and then it just kind of constantly runs. Like, do you think that'll ever happen?
Well, I
Like, because they
think
did that in baseball a little bit, right? Remember, you ever see the movie Moneyball?
yeah,
And
because
they use statistics,
so
right?
baseball is a very statistics heavy
Mm,
sport and
yeah,
it's easy to collect data like because everything is kind of term based in a way, right? And then
yeah.
you can keep track of all the data that
Mm,
way. And so that's why at baseball it's I heard this from a friend who was also a programmer and also a baseball player, and he said, yeah, this Moneyball things like Moneyball happened in baseball first because there was just so much data around,
mm,
and soccer is trying to do that. There are like data analytics companies that collect data from
yeah,
all the players and whatnot. But it's a little harder because soccer is still real time, and it's now they have this calculate things like expected goal over the
yeah,
game, like how many
yeah.
goals a team was expected to get,
Mm,
whatever. But with judo, it's so dynamic and like you gotta come up with the metrics, I guess, before you
yeah,
could actually. Because right now all the algorithms are very data hungry, so you have to
yeah,
collect this data, and that would be a monumental challenge, I think,
yeah.
especially a sport like judo, because so
Can you
dynamic.
do? Can you do like okay, right side versus left side, right? You can
I
calculate the person which side do they attack more, and
right.
then you could use that as a data point. Can you use like person who puts their hand on first?
Hmm.
Can you use that as a data point? I guess it's tricky, right? Because
Yeah, it's that's what they call like. I guess it's what they call like feature engineering. You have to come up
ooh,
with these
that's
features.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
feature
I mean, but
engineering.
that you would need experts like you, domain experts like you, to kind of guide the process. Like, okay,
Yeah,
we have a lot of video data, right,
yep,
from IGF, and now we have to kind of the current status of the algorithm is that you need a lot of label data,
yeah.
meaning you have to someone has to go in and then like, okay, this is Uchimata, this is right versus right, this is left
Yeah.
versus right, things
Ooh,
like that.
very time consuming. I'm not taking on that job.
Yeah, and that's a like dark side of AI right now because a lot of people, a lot of companies rely on this label data, and then they have these people called data annotators
Mhm.
who have to be quite skilled. They have to
Yeah,
know the domains well and then be trained to label these things. But a lot apparently the treatment is not so good across the board.
yeah,
Like they don't get paid enough and whatnot. But yeah, but right now, hopefully, I'm hoping that eventually we'll get over that and then we don't need as much data.
yeah. Interesting, interesting.
But
So, what are
yeah,
some of your small projects that you're working on these days?
small projects. Well, I mean, I don't really have time to do side projects that much besides this.
Yeah,
Um,
this
so
as in
like oh yeah,
podcast.
podcasts and kind of helping you out with the
Yeah,
blog and
yeah,
yeah, producing this podcast. Yeah, and then I guess my research is in so yeah, like I after working as a programmer, I started my PhD program just now.
yeah.
And my research is on natural language processing and cognitive architectures.
Mm.
I can go a little bit
Yeah,
into it
let's
if you
talk a little
want.
bit about that in layman's terms, though, because I don't think most
Yeah.
people are programmers.
No, yeah. So natural language processing is about, you know, making machines that can understand natural language, which is human language that occur in nature, I guess. Like
Yeah.
how we talk, how we write, mostly
Now this
written.
this excludes like yeah, okay, so it's all textual.
Well, natural language processing usually focuses on textual, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's just the easiest form to deal with. And
Yeah.
then,
But
and if you want,
that's
yeah,
limits sort of so like my initial master's degree, my first master's degree is in
mm,
teaching English, right? Teaching
mm,
language to other speakers. And then we had this thing called second language acquisition. It was like a class for, like learning about language acquisition. Right. And
mm.
there was like a statistic in there by this guy, Noam Chomsky, or somebody like this.
Chomsky probably,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, he's kind of famous, right?
yeah,
And then it's like most, communication is nonverbal and paraverbal, and words only account for X amount of percentages. Like,
mm-hmm.
you've had, or I know people who had relationship with Brazilian girls who didn't speak a lick of English or Japanese, right?
Yeah.
And then you could communicate,
Right. Yeah.
right?
So yeah, you're right, but the field right now, I mean, they're trying to make so yeah, as a field, they're trying to incorporate a lot of these modes of
Yeah,
communication, right? Sound and
yeah,
whatever. But then it's right now it's hard because even speech recognition is a different field because audio data is completely different from textual data. So there are whole swath schools of people who are trying to take the audio data and then transcribe it into text so that other algorithms can process. And even human gesture recognition that's in the
yeah.
computer vision side, and they are working on how to do all this. And then I guess the goal eventually is to combine all of that, like you said, and make a system that can incorporate all kinds of information to understand
So
us.
is Apple going to win that battle because that little microphone that's facing us is always on and they're always collecting data and they're always looking at the way, right?
Uh-huh.
Because
Well,
now they're probably
maybe.
listening to us, so they have textual stuff, right? That gets converted. That's already been done,
All right.
right? And then intonation, they have the data for that, and then they have the visual data. So now they
Right.
could really they're ahead of the game. But I heard it's like okay, yeah, Apple, yeah, but like the phone carriers, the Verizon,
Right.
the AT&T, because all that data gets pushed through that.
Right.
Like those are
So
the ones with the real power, right?
if they can, I mean, I don't know the legalities of that. I'm pretty sure that it's all legal. And I mean, but even
And they
if
can do
they
whatever they want. They could do whatever.
say, let's assume that they do collect the data.
Yeah,
The problem is we don't really have the computing power, the algorithms advanced enough to effectively process all of that into a single like model or agent yet.
so there's
Yeah.
companies like Palantir, who sort of like
Palantir, yeah.
yeah. How do you pronounce it? Palantir.
Palantir, yeah.
I thought it was Palantir.
I think well,
Palantir.
I actually I had some friends who worked there and I actually applied and I got rejected.
Really? Oh shoot! I didn't
I
know that.
I
Yeah.
did get rejected, but they've told me it's pronounced Palantir.
Okay,
Yeah,
so Palantir, right? They have
yeah.
so they can collect all this data,
Hmm.
all the different sources. Can they scrub it and use it in a way where the way we're talking about? Like, do they already have the technology to do that?
Technology to ingest all this different data.
Well, yeah, I mean, like just what we're talking about.
Uh, well, I don't think we're there yet. I mean, it's coming from a first year PhD student, so you take that with a grain of salt. But
Yeah.
I've, as a field, well, I haven't heard of a technology that's capable of doing that yet. Yeah. And it's usually I know people can go on onto conspiracy theories. Oh my God,
Yeah.
CIA must have something, NSA must have something. Well, this problem is so big that no single organization would have the resources to solve it.
Yeah.
So right now the move is that okay, let's just make it as open as possible, all the results and research, so
Yeah.
that as a whole community we can solve it, and then we'll worry
Yeah.
about how to, because it's not just about figuring things out. Now we have to have people actually implement it at scale. That's
Yeah.
what companies do, and we're not even there yet. We don't even know what to make.
It's crazy, man. Like I took a data analytics class in my
Right.
MBA, and then the professor was saying like, "Yeah, I work for this thing, and worked on the case with the Facebook IPO case."
Hmm.
And he's like, "We had to go through petabytes of data, right?"
Yeah.
Like I'm like, "What does that even mean?" Like
Yeah.
it really blew my mind, right? Like, can you, right? I mean, how big
It.
are these data sets nowadays?
I don't even. Well, Facebook, they track everything,
Yeah,
and because so I interned at Facebook when I was in college, and then so it's changed a lot since then too. But at that time, it was before the time of deep learning and AI explosion
yeah,
that we have now. But their advancements, so Facebook makes a lot of technical contributions.
yeah.
Uh, and at that time, their main contribution was how to store the petabytes of data and
Is it petabytes or
process.
petabytes?
I have no idea. I've only said peta.
What's the
Or
next level up?
I don't know. Zeta.
Giga? No. Zeta bytes,
I
gigabyte.
don't know.
So how does that go?
Google.
Bytes,
Let me
kilobytes,
see.
megabytes? No, don't cheat. Don't cheat.
That I know up till tera. I
All
guess
right, can you give it to us?
there's a byte, kilobytes, megabytes,
Yeah.
gigabytes, and terabytes, and probably petabytes after that.
Terabyte, petabyte. You sure?
I'm not sure. I think so.
Oh boy.
And then they're all like about 1,000 times bigger.
They don't make you
1024.
learn this in PhD 101.
They do. I learned in undergrad, but I just forgot because I never really use them. More bigger than Terra right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's right now. Yeah, I don't have the means to deal with like petabytes of data.
All
Only
right.
a
So
handful of
what are you
companies do.
learning right now that's very interesting in your
Right
program?
now,
One
I've
thing quick.
I've been
Let's do
really
like a rapid fire thing.
rapid fire. Okay.
Yeah.
So right now, I've been learning a lot about actually human cognition, like psychology,
Yeah.
neuroscience about it, because I want to be inspired by that to make machines think better. Yeah, so that's been
Interesting.
very interesting. Yeah.
Will
'Cause I've
machines
never
ever
really-
be able to feel?
Well, I think that's a very hard question because what does it even mean to feel? Like, how can we actually define that? I
What
don't know.
are feelings?
I don't know. And I've listened to some talks, but I think the whole question about consciousness and feeling and people don't even know because you have to be able to define it, exactly to be able to talk about it. So
If you could ask Steve Wozniak anything, what would you ask him?
Wozniak, I would ask.
Because he programmed too.
Yeah,
I love
he's
how
more-
Steve Jobs never
Jobs.
programmed anything.
Yeah, he's not a programmer. Wozniak was.
Yeah.
Well, I think he's more of a hardware guy. So I would ask him about I would want to hear some candid answers from him about his relationship with Jobs, like
Nothing to do with programming.
how they worked. Because I think that's I all the technical stuff. It's amazing, but I think the more interesting stuff a lot of times is human relationships
Yeah.
because they're such different people.
For sure. I just assume it was like me in the MBA class, like, oh, we have to do the Excel spreadsheet. Like, hey, you know how to do it. Can you please help me with this? And has it already been done? And
That's
can you
what they say,
explain
huh? But
some of this to me.
Bill Gates said Jobs is good at marketing and inspiring people to work, and Wozniak, well, Jobs didn't say anything about Wozniak, I don't think, but I mean Bill Gates, but Wozniak's more the guy who knew the technologies and put everything together.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So if you were to interview with Elon Musk and he asks you the question, the interview question, what is the biggest problem that you've ever solved? What would you answer?
I think, well, any problem, right? It's not just technology.
I mean, you would want it to be an engineering thing, right?
Right. I think, okay, this is getting a little technical, but, it's, I guess at my previous job, I had to.
Which one, Etsy or AppNexus?
ASAP. Yeah.
ASAP. Okay.
And we had to kind of re-architect our servers, and that was the biggest. Yeah.
What was the problem?
Well, so ASAP does customer support chat with AI models on top of it, and we had this chat servers.
Yeah.
So if you kind of, I'll go very briefly. Chat servers have this real-time component, right? Because we have to, send chat messages in real time. But then most web servers are not real time in the sense that you just make a request and then the server just sends something back. So those are very two different modes of communication, and then they have to, when you grow it, you have to do different things to optimize for each thing. So we decided we need to separate them out, and that was a big undertaking because you have to the biggest challenge with production systems is basically you have to fix and then re-architecture a car while it's driving.
Yeah.
Because you can't break anything. You can't take the system down and work on it. That's what they do that's what they have to do with buildings or something, right?
Yeah.
You can shut it down, but with these servers, you can't take them down because it'll be, business will be done, really. So
yeah. And I think that's the problem with also like airplane control systems too, right? Because they're running on 1970s technology and airplanes are constantly flying. They can't just be like, all right, shut airplanes down. Honestly, man, they should have shut this thing down and done it and revamped it during the coronavirus pandemic. Like I've been thinking about it nonstop. I'm like, man, March hit, air travel was down 80%. Now is a great time to update all the technology and try to implement some of these things.
They did. New York City did that with Subway. Remember L line was gonna be like under construction for 2 years or something.
Yeah,
but they finished it over the pandemic.
Really?
Yeah,
man, I don't hear about any of that.
Because what
did De Blasio do this?
Yeah. Well, Cuomo is in charge.
Oh, all right. I guess he did something good there.
Yeah. So because they could only work on weekends and odd hours, whatnot. But then because of the pandemic, they could work every night. Because remember, I think it's still the case. Subway is closed at night now, right?
Yeah.
It used to be 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they kind of destroyed a lot of businesfication, but you could go get some Polish food in Greenpoint now.
I know
that's the plus, right? There's some upside there, right?
Hang out with the gentrifying hipsters at Williamsburg.
That's right. All right, another question.
Right.
How many windows are there in New York City?
Oh, dude,
that's such a tech-related question. Why do all these tech companies ask that question?
Actually, tech companies don't ask those questions anymore. I know that they used to ask a lot of brain teasers.
Yeah.
But they say, we're not hiring programmers to solve brain teasers. Yeah. They just ask them coding questions.
So what I would love? I would love for if someone asked you that in an interview question, and they're really, wanted to know your thought process and explanation, but you just gave such a specific hard number with absolute confidence.
Confidence wins sometimes, right?
It's like 47,376,271. Not one more, not one less. Like, how would that fare on an interview, you think?
Well, they'll probably ask, they'll probably say, okay, how did you come up with that number?
I just know you don't. You don't know what you don't know, and you just don't know that I know this.
And
could you imagine you said that and got into the philosophy of knowing?
They'll probably, I guess it depends on how you play it off, but it could go either way. Some people think, oh my God, he was a massive asshole.
All right, if you did that in a playful way, and then if you were like, bah, I'm just kidding. And then you could be like, I'm just joking. It's actually, and then you went like 37,472,000,000.
It depends.
And then you got to laugh.
It depends on the interview. Some people are really serious, some people take it lightly. I think I used to take things like when I was interviewing people, I thought I was taking things lightly.
What was your favorite interview question that you would ask people who you're hiring?
Well, my interviews were no fun because I was in charge of the technical interviews, so I would ask programming questions.
Give me
not
a
that
technical
interesting.
programming question that you would ask me on an interview if I was applying for a job with you.
So I like these kind of questions. Like, okay, you know, I'm so at ASAP we were building chat servers, right? So
Yeah.
okay, we need to build a chat server. Can you kind of walk through the design, how you would build a chat server?
Yes. The answer is 27,432,007,043.
Okay,
And
what?
that's my final answer.
I was like, I'll be like, oh, okay, thank you for your time, I guess.
Are you serious?
I
I
just
failed?
no,
Failure.
I will probably ask, okay, like what's that number mean? And
Hmm.
yeah, well, how does that work with the chat server you're trying to build? Yeah.
Yeah, it just does, man. It just does. That's why you hire me,
Yeah.
because you don't know and you need my knowledge, bro.
Oh, and I'll be like, oh my God, we do
Oh my
hire.
God. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about? What do you want everybody who's listening week after week, right? Because their numbers are pretty good, right? You're the
Right.
mastermind behind this podcast.
Well, well, about the podcast, I guess I let's see. About the podcast specifically or something else? Or
A little
anything.
bit of both, right? I want,
Right.
so how's the podcast doing? Let's talk a little bit about that. And then, like, what do you
Hmm.
want our listeners to know about you? Because this is the whole thing, right? Who's Peter
Yeah.
You?
Right. So yeah, I mean, I'm actually first of all want to thank everyone who's been listening, and we definitely want this to grow. And I had never produced a podcast before. You know, I had only started listening to podcasts only recently, and so you know, I would love to hear your feedback. You know, about the sound qualities, all the production related things, so that I can be better. And also, we also, I guess I wanted to talk to you and the audience about, you know, if you want to keep everything judo related, or you want to digress and talk about other things, and then maybe have guests over for other
Yeah.
topics or whatnot. And yeah, and then if you guys have tips for me about podcast production,
And
I'm
what do
all
you
yours.
want your listeners to know about you?
Well, I guess, I love judo, but also I love other things, you know,
Yeah.
AI and whatnot. So if anyone wants to talk to me about AI, you know, anything like that, I would love to talk to you. Um,
Plug your
and
Instagram.
Instagram, I don't have much on that.
Yeah,
It's
plug it.
plug it. Well, my Instagram is Peter Kuno. Kuno is my first name. Peter is my middle name. Kuno is spelled KEUNWOO. So you can follow me, Peter Kuno. I ski a lot. That's another thing.
Hmm.
I love playing soccer. I like skiing.
Yeah.
So I
Remember that
usually
time you took me skiing and then I was snowboarding and then you took me up that black diamond?
it was a black diamond, man. I would never do that.
Well, we went down the blue square,
Right,
but we
Blue
went up the
Square.
main lift and that was very
That's
scary for
right.
me. Yeah.
That was if we went to the highest peak of Hunter Mountain. Yeah, you did
Yeah.
really well. Like for a person who had never snowboarded before.
Yeah, I'm just very athletic, so.
Yeah, it was a. We have that video up on YouTube on my YouTube
That's right.
channel. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And I have a little clip of me snowboarding too. I took all out the parts where I was falling over and I couldn't even stand, and I just used like snippets of the parts that are good, right?
that's
Put
right.
together. Yeah.
It was a fun time. But yeah, I you know I ski. I play soccer. I haven't played soccer in a while. I love watching soccer. My favorite team is Arsenal. I think we had mentioned that here and there. We're kind of struggling up right now, but hopefully things will get better.
Yeah.
And I live in Detroit now.
I want to give a shout out to your wife, who's a doctor on
Sure,
the front
yeah.
lines of fighting COVID.
Oh yeah, my wife was an intern at Lenox Hill. Oh, there's during the pandemic, so that was kind of scary. But there's a Netflix show called Lenox Hill, and they had a pandemic special episode, and my wife's in there for like a few seconds.
Yeah, that's right. I saw it. I was like, oh,
Right.
shoot.
Yeah.
There's so many Asian doctors in there. I was like, I don't know which one is.
One of them.
Yeah.
And then she now is a dermatology resident at Henry Ford in Detroit. Yeah.
Nice. Good. Amazing. Nice little shout out.
Yeah. That's kind of why we, you know, one of the major reasons why I moved here and started school. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice she's so busy, so you could do this with me and go online and hang out and talk.
I know. That's what we do while, you know, I'm home and she's working, you know, treating patients, and I just bullshit with Shintaro.
Yeah.
I love doing that.
That's where it's at. All right, Peter. Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
I think we
thank
know
you. Yeah.
everybody knows you a little bit better now. I mean, I knew everything from this conversation beforehand because, you know, I talk to you all the time.
Yeah.
But it's nice to get you out there.
Right.
Because I'm sure people are wondering, who is this guy? Who is Peter Yu?
Maybe people will like me less because this mystery factor is gone now. But hopefully that's not true.
They probably like you more now.
Hopefully.
So thank you, everyone, for listening. Please tune in next week, Mondays. Right, Peter?
Mondays. Yep. Every Monday.
And have a good one, guys.